Ladies and gentlemen, what happens when the most dominant nation on Earth suddenly realizes that its all-seeing eyes in space are no longer watching? Imagine the silence in command centers across Washington when satellites worth billions, created to track every movement around the globe, abruptly went blind. Not blinded by natural forces or cosmic accidents, but by the deliberate precision of Indian artificial intelligence. This is not a distant vision of science fiction. This is the present reality. India has just executed a stunning move, unveiling AI-powered defense mechanisms capable of obstructing, disrupting, and neutralizing American surveillance satellites. For decades, U.S. satellites have floated as untouchable guardians of global supremacy, orbiting freely and gathering intelligence without challenge. That monopoly has now been interrupted. This bold decision from New Delhi signifies more than just a technological advancement. It marks a turning point in the global balance of influence. The United States, long accustomed to observing the world unopposed, now finds itself facing a rival capable of blinding its gaze. This is not merely about satellites, it is about sovereignty, about control of the skies above and the information beneath them. India's AI defense is not a weapon of destruction, but a weapon of refusal. By denying access to crucial data, it denies sway, and by denying sway, it redraws the map of power itself. Washington may deem it provocative, but to India it is self-protection. Protection against intrusion, against manipulation, and against dependence on an international structure engineered elsewhere. And this step is not isolated. It belongs to a wider trajectory in which India asserts itself not as a rising actor, but as a decisive force in cyberspace, defense, and diplomacy. The signal is clear and unmistakable. India will not be watched. India will be reckoned with. The true question tonight is not whether this shocks America. It absolutely does. The question is whether the world is ready for a future where the dominance of a single superpower can be technologically contested. The age of AI defense has arrived, and India has claimed itself as its pioneer. Blocking U.S. satellites with artificial intelligence is more than a technical accomplishment. It is a profound declaration of national will in an age where supremacy over information defines influence on the world stage. For decades, the United States has relied upon its vast constellation of satellites to project dominance, observe rivals, and ensure no significant event went unnoticed. These satellites are not just lifeless machines circling in orbit. They are the quiet operators of modern geopolitics, providing real-time data to generals, economists, and policymakers. When India deployed AI to interfere with or obstruct access to these powerful eyes in the sky, it sent a jolt through Washington and far beyond. The ability to blind satellites represents more than tactical disruption. It is strategic defiance, striking at the very core of America's most trusted advantage, its edge in technological surveillance. Artificial intelligence equips India with the capability to detect, interpret, and anticipate satellite signals, then apply adaptive algorithms to jam or distort them, leaving the eyes of a superpower momentarily sightless. This maneuver is not an act of destruction. No satellite has been physically eliminated, but rather an assertion of control, a demonstration that America's aura of invulnerability in outer space is no longer absolute. Such a step proves that satellites, once considered unreachable and immune to challenge, are vulnerable before advanced AI-driven defense systems. For India, this is an expression of shielding itself against constant foreign scrutiny, ensuring that its military activities, strategic experiments, or national communications cannot be exploited by distant powers. For the United States, it is a sobering reminder that hegemony is never permanent and that even the most sophisticated infrastructure can be confronted by nations determined to safeguard their autonomy. The symbolism carries as much weight as the technology itself. India has shown that it is not only catching up, but also capable of setting new terms of engagement in both digital and space domains. This one bold act transforms India's image from that of a significant participant to that of a state prepared to push defense innovation into areas that even the strongest powers must respect. The global message is unambiguous. Satellites, once the unquestioned guardians of unilateral oversight, are no longer untouchable. Artificial intelligence has become the great equalizer, allowing emerging powers to challenge and reshape the strategic landscape. This move delivers a direct challenge to America's global supremacy, a supremacy that has for decades rested on the unparalleled reach of its intelligence-gathering capabilities. The United States has long built and extended its influence not solely through military or economic might, but also through its ability to perceive what others could not conceal. Satellites have stood as one of the most potent instruments of this supremacy, granting Washington unrivaled access to the movements of armies, the tests of new weaponry, the flow of energy and resources, and even the communications of rivals. This knowledge has given America confidence in negotiations, the upper hand in conflicts, and an ever-present sense of dominance in international affairs. When India takes the bold step of obstructing these satellites with AI, it strikes at the very core of this invisible pillar of American dominance. Suddenly, the assumption of absolute oversight that has defined U.S. supremacy begins to crack. If America cannot see, it cannot command in the same way. This moment proves that superiority in surveillance is not eternal, and that advanced innovation can create new vulnerabilities where once there appeared to be none. For Washington, this is far more than a passing inconvenience. It is a strategic predicament. Supremacy relies not only on raw strength, but also on the perception of invulnerability. The instant another nation demonstrates the capacity to weaken a cornerstone of America's power, the credibility of that supremacy is placed in doubt. India, through its AI defense, has demonstrated that a determined rising power, fueled by innovation, can pierce the illusion of inevitability surrounding U.S. dominance. The symbolic weight is enormous. It proves that even America's most guarded advantages are no longer beyond challenge. Around the globe, other nations, whether China, Russia, or regional players, are watching closely. The ripple effect cannot be avoided. If India can contest America's surveillance ability, others will soon be motivated to explore similar methods, pushing the monopoly of observation toward a multipolar contest for control of the skies. Supremacy has never been only about holding the most advanced tools. It has also been about ensuring that others could not resist them. India's action disrupts this long-standing equation, showing that even the most powerful can be forced to yield. By challenging U.S. satellites, New Delhi has not only defended its sovereignty, but also reshaped the perception of the global order, replacing inevitability with uncertainty and forcing the world to admit that supremacy is no longer unquestioned. India frames this act not as provocation but as defense, safeguarding its independence from relentless foreign observation. In an era where information is as valuable as weaponry, the power to shield one's secrets has become the very definition of strength. Blocking American satellites through AI defenses is not merely a confrontation but a declaration that India's skies, its data, and its strategies are not open fields for external monitoring. The narrative out of New Delhi is clear. This is not escalation, it is defense, and defense is the most basic right of a sovereign nation. For decades, states beyond the Western sphere have endured the reality that their internal affairs could be watched from orbit, their every move reported back to Washington. Whether missile launches, troop shifts, or economic projects, little could be hidden. This perpetual observation created imbalance, leaving many countries exposed while the United States enjoyed near total advantage. India's AI defense flips that imbalance, restoring the privacy and safety every independent nation desires. By presenting this move as protection rather than aggression, India reframes its step as necessity, not hostility. It does not seek conflict with America. What it demands is freedom, the freedom to act without being constantly tracked from thousands of miles above. In today's world, surveillance is not simply about gathering data. It has become a quiet projection of power, a method of domination without firing a single missile. To resist it is to reclaim independence from that control. By building defenses against such oversight, India announces that its sovereignty is not open to negotiation, and its autonomy cannot be compromised by unwanted eyes in the sky. Framing this as protection rather than reckless escalation underscores discipline and deliberate planning. It signals that India has chosen principle over provocation, ensuring that its course is rooted in necessity, not recklessness. No nation should be forced to live beneath a permanent gaze from above, and India has just shown the world that it will not. This act is therefore not a provocation toward war but a technological shield, one that ensures India's choices remain India's alone. Sovereignty in the 21st century is no longer just about physical territory and borders, but about data security and the power to protect national strategy from outside interference. By framing its approach as defense, India makes it clear that its AI system is not aimed at destabilizing others, but at securing its own independence. It sets a precedent that surveillance is not an unquestioned privilege of the powerful, but a force every nation has the right to resist. This evolution shifts the global balance of power, signaling India's emergence as a defining geopolitical player at a time when the world order is already under immense pressure. For decades, the balance tilted heavily in favor of the United States, not only due to its military and economic clout, but also because of its unmatched dominance in space and intelligence infrastructure. American satellites were central to that superiority, giving Washington the means to watch, predict, and influence events across continents with near absolute confidence. When India introduces an AI defense system capable of blocking or disrupting these satellites, it fractures that confidence and delivers a message that power is no longer shifting slowly but in decisive steps. The capacity to deny surveillance is more than a technological upgrade. It is a geopolitical statement that India rejects a subordinate role in the global hierarchy. By striking at one of the main foundations of U.S. supremacy, India elevates itself into the ranks of nations that shape rather than simply react to the rules of international competition. The ripple effects stretch beyond Washington and New Delhi. Other nations, both allies and adversaries of the United States, will see this as proof that the era of a single unchallenged superpower is waning. If India can shield itself from American oversight, others will understand that a multipolar world, where information dominance is shared, not monopolized, is no longer theoretical but possible. This represents a profound recalibration of how global power is distributed. Surveillance has always been one of the hidden levers through which the U.S. maintained its hegemony. Now that lever is weakened, and nations that once moved cautiously under America's constant gaze may feel emboldened to assert greater independence. India's achievement marks it not only as a regional giant, but as a global actor able to challenge outdated assumptions about who sets the boundaries of influence. It demonstrates that technological progress can establish new centers of strength and that rising powers can command respect not just through economic size or military stockpiles, but by resisting domination in the digital and space arenas. This disruption forces alliances to be reconsidered, doctrines to be rewritten, and relationships to be recalibrated, because the power balance has shifted in a way that cannot be overlooked. India's move signals that the international order is entering a new phase where fresh leaders will rise and established powers must adapt to a reality they no longer control on their own. AI defense is described as a weapon of denial, restricting access to information instead of inflicting destruction. This distinction is crucial for understanding its effect on modern security and global politics. Conventional weapons are judged by the damage they cause, the land they seize, or the lives they end. A weapon of denial, by contrast, alters the equation by preventing an adversary from using its own resources, disrupting its ability to plan, act, or respond effectively. India's AI defense does not destroy satellites. Instead, it neutralizes their function, cutting off the streams of data that form the backbone of modern military and intelligence operations. By doing so, it creates an entirely new category of strategic advantage, the ability to withhold information without escalating to open physical conflict. By turning satellites blind, India secures a defensive triumph without provoking the level of global outrage that would accompany direct attacks on orbital infrastructure. This approach enhances legitimacy because it demonstrates control, discipline, and precision rather than recklessness. Yet the effects of denial are just as potent as physical destruction. Without dependable intelligence, even the strongest military becomes uncertain, hesitant, and exposed. Wars are not only fought on battlefields, but also inside command centers, and when the flow of surveillance data is severed, decisions slow, strategies crumble, and confidence erodes. India's embrace of AI denial reflects an understanding of this truth. Power lies not only in striking, but in obstructing an opponent's ability to strike. This underscores the future of conflict, where nations will battle to control or block information flows rather than simply amass larger stockpiles of firepower. Denial produces ambiguity, and ambiguity shifts psychological advantage. If the U.S. cannot trust its satellites to monitor Indian defenses or predict Indian maneuvers, it is forced to guess. In warfare and diplomacy alike, guessing is weakness. Moreover, denial avoids the costs of space debris and the dangers of escalation that would result from physically destroying satellites, making it both a strategic and ethical breakthrough. By presenting AI defense as a weapon of denial, India signals that it seeks deterrence, not devastation, yet achieves deterrence in an effective, calculated way. This subtle but transformative change demonstrates that defense in the modern era is no longer just about building tanks or missiles, but about controlling the circulation of knowledge, which in many ways has become more decisive than weapons themselves. Denial is invisible, bloodless, and silent, yet it carries enough strength to shift balances between nations that once assumed intelligence superiority was theirs by default. This development signals the dawn of a new age in defense and geopolitics, where advanced technology can challenge traditional superpowers in ways conventional arsenals never could. For most of modern history, power was measured in the size of armies, the reach of navies, or the destructive capacity of nuclear stockpiles. But in the interconnected world of today, dominance is increasingly measured by control of information and the protection of secrets. India's deployment of AI defenses against American satellites demonstrates that the future battlefield will not be confined to land, sea, or air. It will extend into space and cyberspace, where visibility, surveillance, and data are the most critical resources. This shift represents a decisive transformation because it enables nations outside the established centers of power to compete more evenly. A country need not possess thousands of nuclear weapons or the largest army to assert itself if it can deny its rivals access to essential intelligence. Artificial intelligence, with its speed, adaptive learning, and autonomous countermeasures, gives emerging powers the ability to disrupt systems once considered beyond their reach. This changes the hierarchy of power, making it clear that even the strongest can be undermined by innovation instead of brute strength. The new era now unfolding is one in which smaller or rising states can adopt asymmetric strategies, relying on advanced technology to resist surveillance or interference and thereby protect their sovereignty. For the international order, this is both unsettling and liberating. It is unsettling because the predictability of one dominant superpower keeping watch over all others is crumbling, making conflicts harder to calculate. Yet it is liberating because it shows that creativity and innovation can empower nations that were once overshadowed by overwhelming U.S. dominance. India's success serves as a demonstration of this transition, proving that AI is not just a tool for efficiency, but a weapon of profound strategic consequence. By applying AI to national defense, New Delhi has placed itself at the front line of this new era, establishing itself not just as a regional actor, but as a pioneer shaping the technologies that will determine global security. The dawn of this new chapter compels every nation to reconsider defense doctrines, reimagine alliances, and rethink strategies for the long term. The global balance of power will now depend on mastery of algorithms as much as on the possession of arms. What India has demonstrated is that the decisive contests of tomorrow will be won not by the biggest armies, but by the smartest technologies. And the nations able to innovate in these emerging arenas will set the direction of the 21st century.